All right, I have locked El Presidente in my tackle room. We're inside my tackle room, and we're getting the answers to all the questions that we have about the Zilla 2.0.
My first question is, and I haven't even thought about any of these questions. Why the redesign? Why change one of the best rods in the Alpha Angler lineup?
I think the biggest thing is we're always adding and looking for new things. We wait for Brandon to win a tournament or somebody to do something with a rod or a new technique or new line, and we kind of just morph it into our rods. But we had too many changes with the Zilla, and we kind of had to. I didn't want to just reintroduce or add a few things to the Zilla and say it's better. There was enough change in the design and the components that I felt like it needed a kind of a 2.0 badge, or the next best thing other than just sticking stuff in it. You know what I mean?
What would you say is the biggest change to the 2.0? What is the most drastic thing, or what makes the biggest difference from a performance standpoint?
Two things. So we built the Vader last year. We launched it as a special edition, and it had a different blank than the Zilla. And the one thing we realized was people wouldn't use the Zilla Vader for the same things they'd use the Zilla for. So for instance, the Zilla was a better frog rod, brag rod. It was just kind of more universal. Whereas maybe the Vader was more of a bottom contact jig rod. But there were some things we did really well with the Vader. The way we did the blank, the way we moved weight around. We wanted to incorporate that into the Zilla, but it was going to change the kind of the way it looked and felt and some of the design. And so that was the number one change. I felt like some of those cool things we learned with the Zilla or the Vader, we could learn with we could put into the Zilla, but it was going to make some changes. And an example, we wanted a little bit different butt cap and a little bit bigger butt cap for launching frogs and stuff like that. So we increased the size of this, but at the same time we wanted to cut weight. So if we were going to add more material, we wanted to cut weight to bring it down. We were able to do that successfully with the Vader. So I felt like it needed to go into the Zilla, but if we just made that change and didn't tell you about it, I just thought we would have been shorting you a little bit.
Give me your explanation of the stainless steel versus standard guides out there that have a harder material or are built out of a harder material. What are the advantages of a stainless steel outer ring on the guides?
My nerdy answer for why we use stainless steel guides, Brandon liked that one better, but I wanted to just kind of clarify. I love stainless steel because it's malleable a little bit more than titanium, where it can, if you put a lot of pressure on a titanium guide, it's going to resist bending and it's going to hurt the guide wrap itself. It's going to pull itself out from under the guide wrap or loosen itself, or it's going to damage the plank. Stainless steel, you can bend it and then bend it back and go back to fishing. When your buddy steps on your rods or whatever. We had a lot less warranty claims with stainless steel when we first started Alpha. So we kind of rode with that. And then when we had this particular guide designed, it has a really great angle to it. And the material in it, which I'm not going to say what it is, because we're in competition with other companies, has a really low drag coefficient. So braid drag, things like that. It seems like in testing and in casting, this material just seems to cast really well. It has a less braid noise compared to some of the other things we tested. So we stuck with this material, and it resists braid grooving, which some materials will actually groove with a lot of heavy braid use. That braid grooving was an issue with lower count braids, 4 carrier count braids. Higher carrier count braids won't do that. But anyways, that's your nerd answer. But we found this guide train and fell in love with it. It was also something we put into the Zilla 2.0. And so we felt like it, we couldn't just add that to the guides and not be like, hey, why is my rod so different? So called it the 2.0.
With all of the changes, we're constantly evolving and putting the best components into a rod, with how many like fancy different split grip versions, split reel seats, all of this, why do you think that reel seat has continued to just make the top of the list?
Its geometry is correct in that it has the flattest surface for your fingers to grab onto when you wrap around the rod and grab your reel. A lot of times when we were removing material from our reel seats so that we could get more action or more hold onto the blank, we were actually making a really skinny surface to hold onto, which would be like holding onto a thin metal bar and trying to hold on as tight as you can. It's kind of like a pull-up bar. You don't want a really skinny bar. You want a big bar that you can hold onto so it doesn't hurt your fingers. I actually think that this surface and the geometry of this surface gives you the most control of your rod and gives you the most comfort. On top of the fact that it allows blank through access. So you're actually connecting to the blank and the vibrations that are sent down the blank. The other thing about this Fuji reel seat compared to anybody else's, they actually mold each and every one of these sizes for each different diameter in and out of the reel seat itself. And a lot of companies don't do that. They have an insert in there. What I like about this is all one piece of material that is glued directly to the blank. So vibrations will go through the handle itself and you'll feel the blank. So it's the only one that I've seen like that where you get a lot of surface area to hold on to something, but a lot of control of the rod with one hand. So I think that's why people keep going back to it and love it. I mean, I think it's been copied a bunch of different times, but this particular Fuji one is the original, and I still think it's the best. I think it's the most comfortable by far.
And it also, you could say the fact that because it has more contact space on the blank, you're actually getting more sensitivity, more like vibration pass through, because you're not having to use like a fake insert to cover up the blank to create to allow it to stay on the blank. Because there's a lot of reel seats that are split or things like that where you think you're actually touching the blank, but you're not.
Yeah, I did a video on different components. I nerded out on a video about handles, and some of the really cool handles that are out there, like Brandon said, they have a sleeve in them to allow them to work with different size blanks. This particular reel seat doesn't have any of that. It is a solid piece of material that is, and your blank is glued directly to it. There's no foam, no any kind of tape. This reel seat will probably last the longest too because it is directly glued all the way from the top to the bottom to the blank. I mean, it's been around forever. There's a reason that everybody's copied it. It's just what we feel like is the best. If you're fishing day in and day out, like Brandon is a good example. This is kind of like, if he was a truck driver, this would be his steering wheel. He needs this to be the most comfortable that it can be and give him all the information he needs, feedback. So, there's really not a lot of reasons to change it. I know in certain models we've cut threads off. We did that with the Vader. Some people like it, some people don't. We've tried different thread caps. Some people like them, some people don't. We always keep coming back to minimal is better. I mean, not a lot of augmentation to the original design, and just make sure that it's built really, really well, balanced really, really well, and you'll get a ton of feedback from what's going on your rod, or on the end of your rod.
I'd like to add to the what's the technical term for the thread cap? Doesn't it have a technical term?
Yeah, it's like a decorative cap. I'm not really sure what it is.
It's almost like a crown. It's almost like a king's crown type thing. They really don't serve any performance purpose. They make your rod look really pretty, and we've looked at adding them. I don't. Every time I get one, it feels bulky, so I keep telling them no.
You know what makes your rod look pretty?
What makes your rod look pretty?
A big trophy sitting next to it. That'll make your rod look pretty. And that's why we designed these. Checks and trophies. Autographed signatures. Yeah.
Now, I will say, if we find one, we're like, oh, this is actually really comfortable and it has a benefit, we'll add it. But until then,
less is more.
Less is more.
All right. You got any more hard questions?
What's your favorite technique for the 2.0? What's your favorite thing to throw that you're willing to talk about?
I'm a T-rigger.
A T-rigger.
I'm a T-rigger. I will Texas rig for every species. kind of just my favorite thing to do. The flipping into bushes, stuff like that. I'm a Texas rigger. How about you? You're gonna say frog. Everybody knows you're gonna say frog.
Mag draft. I love throwing mag draft on Zilla.
The funny thing about the Zilla, and something that we can show you through tournament success, and how, I don't know another way to prove it. Brandon's 2 AOIs is what you can't actually put math. You can't put this on paper with mathematics, except for the fact that all of the success our pro staffers have with this particular rod. We really designed this taper around fish landing, and I really believe the 2.0 is the same blank as the original Zilla. We made a very slight modification, but one that you won't notice if you have an original Zilla. But the sensitivity, all of that's going to be the same, exceptional. The reason this rod is so good at casting, everybody that gets one of these is like, man, it's so accurate. And most importantly, the reason it is so good at landing fish is the taper and the design and the taper that we put into this. This rod just doesn't let it get those fish. It does not let those fish get ahead of you, and that's really important. And we've spent 9 or 10 years working on the taper of this rod, so that you do haul more trophies home, cash more checks, and like Brandon, sign more autographs. And that was the goal.
Yeah, it's very well put.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the coolest things with that rod that sets it apart, really a lot of our rods, but that one in particular, is how versatile it is by just changing the line that goes on your reel. Same reel, same everything, and you can just change and put braid on it, and then now it's a frogging, swim jigging machine. You put 15, 17 pound test on it, now you're throwing a big worm in brush piles and football jigs. And I mean, it's just crazy. Like, you put 20 pound, 22 pound test on it, now you're flipping a light Texas rig or a light jig in bushes around docks, and it's so versatile.
Yeah. I think what a lot of people don't think is the amount you actually add. In my opinion, you add power to a rod by adding up line size. And I know that sounds dumb, but it's a theory that I feel line size, the thicker the line is, the less stretch it has. So you go to 20 or 25 pound test on this rod, it's going to act more like a 7.3 heavy, because when you go to pull into it, this rod's going to get to its point where it's loaded, and that line's not going to move very much. So you actually, I mean, you get heavier line, but a lot of people go up in line size so that they don't lose fish in cover or heavy cover. But going up in line size also can add power to the rod. Going to braid completely change the characteristics of any rod. On accident, I won't say on accident, through labor of love, we've come up with a design that I think works really well with all different line sizes, and its characteristics of the rod, the way it fishes, changes when you change that. We've gone down to 12 pound tests and drug tubes around with this thing in deep water. It moves enough line to get a tube in their mouth, but it doesn't break them off. I mean, that's why it's the most versatile rod that we have.
You know, when they're doing like the decide if you get to stay or if you got to go.
Am I like this?
No. See, like, it's here. It's like tilting.
Everybody, yeah.
You can
everybody
still be
needs
president.